Ladies and gentlemen of Bird Nation, we feel very blessed to have a very special guest flown in from San Antonio just for this. Dave Colson. Dave, to give a little backstory, Dave was once my personal trainer. He helped me get fit at the gym back in 2019?
2019, yeah.
Okay, yeah, 2019. Me and Dave have been good friends for a long time. I've also been able to learn a lot from Dave just working in close proximity with him. Dave currently is the branch manager out in San Antonio, Texas. He's led basically everyone in the organization last year through a successful summer. Was able to help our sales team, but also our operations kind of go in smoothly. And I think a lot of times when people are getting involved in summer sales, they don't realize how important a branch manager is to them having a successful summer and growing. But we were really grateful for Dave this last summer, and he's kind of set a standard for what it is to be a branch manager. So thanks for being here, Dave.
Yeah, of course. No, thanks for the introduction, man. Talking me up a lot. I appreciate that.
No, Dave's a great guy. He deserves that and even more. But Dave, just kind of hopping into it, can you give us a little backstory about you, kind of where you're from, what you like to do, all that good stuff?
Yeah. So, grew up in Utah. Went to college at UVU. That's kind of where I met Dawson. I invited him to the gym, but he was actually my personal trainer. So if anyone got more out of it, it was definitely me. And then in the summer, I found out that he had some teching positions. We got started on that. I helped that first summer that you were here.
That's right, dude. I forgot that in the intro. That's on me.
Yeah, so I was teching for a while, and then I went back to school, did my internship, got my degree in international business, and then he called me up, said, hey, we're starting something up in San Antonio, and I was stoked to be a part of it and super grateful.
Yeah. Well, and kind of walk us through too. Let's even jump back obviously from southern Utah, growing up. What did you like to do? Like, what were your things?
Yeah, southern Utah. So it's hot, and for most of the year. So we were outside a lot, hiking, rappelling, Sand Hollow Resort. That's back when it was small and not super well known. So you could get there and have the lake to yourself pretty much all day. And so we did a lot of that stuff. Yeah, pretty much just a lot of outdoors. It's hard to not be outdoors when you're so close to Zion National Park and those kinds of things.
It's cool, dude. And do you get outdoors much in San Antonio? Like, is there sights to see?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's actually part of the reason we moved out there the beginning of last year, and we decided to buy a house pretty much immediately because we just fell in love with all the things to do, whether it's the Alamo, the Riverwalk, a couple lakes around there, some fun little hikes. Definitely got hot, and you kind of want to hide as much as you can in the summer and in 110 degrees all year. But no, we had some good times, and there's still fun things to do. I just got into fishing actually last month. My wife doesn't like that I picked up an extra hobby to keep me out of the house a little longer, but it's been super fun to do that.
Dude, I've heard you've been feeding ducks too. Like, I heard you got
did. Yes, we bought 2 ducks. We kind of wanted chickens, but we read that ducks have they lay more eggs. They're a little more fun. They're quiet.
How many do they lay?
They finally started laying 2 weeks ago, and they lay 1 a day consistently. And one day we have 2 ducks. One night we looked in the coop in the morning and we found 3 eggs. I don't even know how it was possible, but they're cranking them out. So here pretty soon we're gonna start selling them.
Hey, well, let me know how much they're going for. Yeah. I might be into getting a duck or something.
That's right. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, and Dave, one of the things I think just in working with you that I've seen a lot of times in pest control or being branch manager or even being like a sales guy, sometimes I feel like it can feel like you're drowning a little bit between all the work you have to do, all the people you have to manage, and it's just a lot. I don't think there's anything in pest control, one particular thing that it's like, holy cow, like I've got to do. I think a lot of times people ask me like, what do you do every day?
Yeah.
And it's really hard, I think, as a branch manager, as a startup, to be like, oh, this is what I do every single day.
No, there's no what's the day in the life of a branch manager? There's not really a good answer for that one.
But and I'm tying this back to the duck thing, but I feel like you're really good at like just letting the water slide right off your back when like it's starting to come over. And I honestly think that's one thing that I think you have a gift at, is just being able to continue forward even when things are crazy. And was that something that you feel like you learned in the job, or was that something you're like, oh, I learned that over a mission? What kind of prepped you to be able to be like, oh, even though there's a lot, like it might not be perfect, it might be messy, but we're going to keep going through and like.
Yeah. No, that is actually a really good question. Obviously a lot of what I learned is from BRD and managing. This is the first time I've had to manage a big group and separate teams and have that kind of stress. But yeah, definitely throughout all of life and mission and schooling, sometimes you just realize like, yeah, you know what, it's gonna be stressful, but at the end of the day, you either get it done or you don't, and you move on and you do the best you can. So I think that's just kind of a life lesson. I've always had that attitude, especially. I try my best, but really at the end of the day, like, you just do what you can and go with the flow, and like you said, let it roll off your back a little bit.
Cool. I mean, I've always noticed that your attitude. Sometimes you'll call me and you'll be like, "Hey, Doss, how you doing?" I'll be like, "Good," and then I'll be like, "What's going on? How are you?" Like, "Well," you're like, "Good. Honestly, everything's great." And then you'll start listening, like, "We have these things all going on. I think I know how to do it, but like, if you have any advice, it'd be great too."
Yeah,
and I'll be like, "Oh, like I think maybe like that'd be a good idea." But like, you always just have a very cheery attitude when obstacles do arise, and that's just one thing that I think a lot of like sales reps that are out knocking this summer can learn from that, because not only like everyone has problems, like from technicians to office managers to sales reps, there's huge things that go on. And I think just having that happy-go-lucky attitude that you do, that's like, whoa, shoot, all right, well, we're going to figure it out. We're going to keep going. I think if you had to put a monetary value to that, oh, dude, it's so valuable. So, but walk me through. So obviously you've seen a lot of sales reps now come through like the organization. There's, I mean, everyone has their different like things that make them successful, but what are some things that you've seen you're like, oh, like now seeing like a full year cycle of like kids coming out to like knocking and then coming home? What are some things you're like, hey, if I had like a tip or trick for a sales guy, like this is what I've seen like adds some success to like that realm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun being a branch manager because you have, I guess before I kind of had the sales side. I have a lot of friends that would do summer sales, and you starting this company. So I kind of came into this with a lot of the, like, okay, this is a sales kind of company, sales driven company, which it is. But the branch manager side has helped me see the operation side to everything. And it's funny because there's always a balance of like, it seems like they're always against each other. But a great company finds a way to mesh those, and sales guys need to realize it's hard for the techs to do these things, and the techs need to realize, oh, the sales guys are putting in a lot of work to do to get these accounts, and we wouldn't be here one without the other. The company wouldn't work. So it's fun to see that the sales guys who have the most success, they've kind of come to realize like, I need to know what it's like on the opposite side of the operation side. So whether that means setting good expectations with customers of what the service is really like, taking time to talk to the techs and be like, hey, like, what is it that we actually do that I'm selling? Like, what am I actually selling? Those salesmen seem to have a better idea and can be more honest and open and sell more strong accounts that aren't going to cancel down the line. I
think seeing a service is huge for like a sales rep right when they get out there. If you have the opportunity to either link up with like Dave or another technician or like any of the different branches we have, I think there's a ton of value there. Because the first time I saw it, I was able to like, one, there was a ton of different like things I could add to my pitch that I was like, oh, I didn't know we did that. And then two, it also like helps ground you in reality that like, oh, okay, we can't get a 6-story Eve with that raw. We need to set realistic expectations. And I think if you do that when you're selling people, they're way happier than if like a technician's got to explain that to them.
Yes.
And one, you'll make way more money. The customer will be satisfied, and it's easier on the operations team.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. It is funny when I totally agree. It would be awesome if every sales guy had a chance to see a service in progress. Because there's so many things that you don't realize, like, oh, there's no ladders on the trucks. Like, how did they get up to those eaves? Or, oh, I didn't realize the pressure gun actually squirted that far. And
you guys won't get up on the roof?
Yeah, right. Yeah. We have some holes in the roof. Are you not going to repair those while we're there? And get into the attic and all those fun kind of things. Yeah.
100%. Well, cool. And so as far as like a lot of different guys, like there's probably 40-ish guys that came through San Antonio last year.
Yeah, at least at one point, yeah.
And here's the thing. My mom always told me you're not supposed to choose favorites. But if you had to be like, hey, do you have any guys you're like, oh, like they were really solid last year. Like I enjoyed having them come through the camp.
Oh, absolutely. I will say, I had my challenges with every single one. There's nothing like getting a 9 p.m. phone call from someone who needs some help with something after you feel like you've closed the computer and you're done for the day. But I'll tell you right now, my favorite sales guys were the ones who I knew when they sold an account, it was solid and it wasn't going anywhere. And I knew that the technicians didn't have to go out that day and finish the sale for them or close the sale. So those sales guys who can go out and they set good expectations. They're not lying to customers. They don't have to be open and exact and say everything about the contract, but they need to have those main questions answered so that when the technician gets there at the end of the day, he doesn't feel bad that he's an account fell through and doesn't go back on the technician.
Right. And I think a lot of times guys get nervous. They're like, oh, I've had someone bucket this part. Or like, but there are a lot of people that are willing to accept the terms and conditions.
Absolutely.
And the cool thing about being a branch manager is, like, sales guys are normally only seeing anywhere from like 10 to 1 deals come across like a day. So like that's generally the range. Sometimes they're seeing a little bit more. But like that, like they only get to see that many deals coming through on their side. And obviously they see what's on the leaderboard. You every day, you're like, holy cow, I'm logging into like all the past accounts that we've sold. So you can see that kind of image. But like, I think a lot of times there are so many people that are accepting it at the right terms in the right way. And I think a lot of times sales guys get this restlessness that like, oh, maybe I just shouldn't do it the right stable way. And I think you can probably see this, that like you've probably seen guys that sell phenomenal, are super reliable, and do it like how their managers and people are explaining it to them. And then I'm sure you've seen guys that like kilter off that, but like just being from your seat, you know that it's possible, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think a lot of times we get a sales guy who is scared to mention like a cancellation policy, or hey, we're actually going to come back in 30 days after the first one, and this is why, or scared to just like let them know how the service is going to go. Like, oh, maybe we don't actually hit this. We're not an extermination company. We're a preventative pest control. We're going to keep the bugs away. But the guys who aren't scared to say it how it is and say it with confidence, oh yeah, it doesn't matter what concerns the customer might have. If you're confident with saying it, they'll just accept it as this is how it is. This is how it is with every company.
Okay, so Dave, I'm going to put you in the hot seat. Well, no, I've always just respected your opinion. I think you have a really good eye for like, hey, is this working for the company, and then also is this working for everyone that's involved? Yeah. And I think like you've given me a number of tips over the years that I've been like, oh yeah, like or that is a good point. Like, oh, I should change that. I actually remember when I first started when I first was moving out of my home office into this office that we're actually currently in. Yeah. I remember I came to you and I was like asking for tips and tricks, and you've always given me good advice like throughout the years. And I remember I was in the gym with you, we were lifting, and I was like, do you think I should like
go for it,
take the risk and like get in the office space? And you're like,
I remember that conversation.
Yeah, and you were like, yeah, I think so. And the funny thing, it's actually coming full circle. I was actually at the UU gym today. Sometimes I still go, like they don't have all the lifting stuff here sometimes. So I was like, I'm gonna go back to the roots. But I remember that at the benches. But well, and answer me this then. What are some of your favorite reads or some things that you've like always like kind of been consuming to keep you grounded or to like improve your work?
Honestly, most of the self-help things that I've learned and quotes and things that I've picked up on and books are from you. Actually, the things that you've sent me since it's funny. I think honestly, one of the biggest business mentors, players that I've learned from is Steve Jobs quotes and the videos and links and books that you've sent for me from him, and he's been a really good.
He's amazing content.
He is.
Anyone listening, if you have the opportunity to watch Steve Jobs's like the one with Ashton Kutcher, have you seen that movie?
No, it's not the movie.
It does like a great like overview of his life, but also just his quotes. Like he ran so many different businesses, and there's so much to learn.
His interviews are awesome. It is. I think he did a 60-minute interview too. One of those.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a really good one. Yeah,
I love it. So for you, kind of growing up, so obviously, like I've met you now, and like you are the man, the myth, the legend, Dave Colson.
Oh yeah.
But who were someone for you, kind of growing up, that you're like, they were a mentor to me that kind of like taught me a lot of salesmanship. Like maybe when you were young, and you're like, oh, I've leaned on a lot of that past experience when I was younger to kind of get me through where I'm at now?
I have best friends, family, the Morrises, Isaac and Christian.
Yes.
Even just as them as brothers, huge. They're the ones that started Summer Sales and kind of got me into that realm of this is what they do. And their dad has been a huge influence on me. He started his own business. We'd go out with him. He did fiber optics, so construction, laying lines, and he always had his crews, and we'd go out there with him, and it was hard work, but it was fun to see the both sides of his management and also him out there and actually doing the manual labor. And I think I learned a lot from that example of sometimes, it's not just sitting in an office all day and in the AC and on the computer. It's, shoot, I actually have to get out there. Something gone wrong. I have to get out in a truck and make this happen, or it's not going to happen.
I know. I love that. And I think, do you know who Deion Sanders is?
Yeah.
Okay, really quick before I get into this, I want to shout out the Morris family. They're awesome. Great people. I love Isaac, Christian, all those guys. Great family. But Deion Sanders, one of my favorite things I saw from him is he was the coach at really, really, I forget the college, but it was kind of a crappier, smaller school. And no one was cutting the grass at the football field. And he's the head coach of the team. So obviously there's he could get other people to do it. He'd asked a couple of times and no one had done it.
Yeah.
So he went and he actually got the lawnmower himself and started cutting the grass during practice. And I think it's just kind of a cool leadership skill that you bring up with the Morris father. He was willing to not only go out and make big deals happen, but making sure that the small things aren't missed.
Oh yeah.
And I think anyone that does that in any career, in any job, if you're good at making sure that the little things are getting done from top to bottom, from facilitating to actually making sure you're in the trenches making something happen, you're going to be successful, and you're going to help teach a lot of other people how to have a life. I think a lot of times with sales guys, they get really focused on I think just young 21-year-old, 18, there's a lot of testosterone, there's a lot of I want to be the man, and I think money kind of goes right alongside with that.
Hand in hand.
I want to make that, I want to be, but I honestly think there's another side that as people get going on that journey, they forget about of actually taking care of people.
Yeah.
And I think you do a really good job of holding that part of the business in check, meaning okay, I am going to make sure to take care of my guys and my people. What do you do that keeps you focused on not just the bottom line being taken care of, but also those people that you're leading over and helping?
Yeah, I think a really big part of it is just constant communication with them. So most of my guys I see every single day in the morning, and I only see them once a day because they're off for the rest of their routes, and they all get home at different times. But that 15 minutes that I have in the morning is crucial for me to see how everything's going at home, what they're excited for in the routes, what they've been hating about the job lately, and what they've been loving, and the coworkers they've been getting along with. And I've noticed that the times and my employees who I haven't had good communication with, we start to kind of drift apart as far as seeing eye to eye and what they expect, what I can expect from them and what they expect from me doesn't start to match up anymore. But when I start to see that happen, if I can get them into an interview or hey, let's catch up, let's do a quick 15-minute meeting, we can get right back on track. It's really quick. You just snap right back, all because they just want to know that you care about them. You don't just see them as a pawn in your big company. It's hey, this is a company of people, not of numbers.
Yeah, and I think frequently getting touches with people is so big. And you think about even the scriptures, there's Jesus, he helps people out one by one.
Yeah.
And I think everyone needs that personal touch of hey, how you doing? Things okay? Here's how I'm going to help you. And I think you can never outsource your influence. You always have to be kind of at some level. Everyone loves the idea of being one day I'm going to not do anything and I'm going to text everybody from my cell phone. This is how it goes. And I don't know if I think that's more of an idea that people have in movies and you kind of get online. The best people I know that live the most successful lives are very involved and very influential in so many other people's lives. And they still make time for them to go on vacations, to have fun. But they also do a really good job of making sure that the people around them are being taken care of.
Yeah. I feel like you do a pretty good job of that, to be honest. You're my example of that for sure, of finding balance of, one of the most successful people I know personally Sometimes I think, man, Das, when are you going to take a step back and stop working so hard? Like, you've already built so much. Now I see you going out and selling another summer, and it comes back in the end for good.
Well, everyone watching at home, that made me feel like a toaster oven. I feel just amazing, Dave. You're the man.
No.
But so walk me through too, like as far as like crazy stories or like funny stuff that have happened. Like, is there anything that you're like, oh, like this was a funny time out this summer as a branch manager, or like with the technicians or the sales guys? You're like, this was something that like I just kind of busted me up.
No, there's plenty. Most of it's all drama, not the funny stuff. It's the drama that we hear as branch managers. But I can't tell you the amount of times that someone's come to the office and, man, I got kicked out of a neighborhood, or man, I think the cops got called on me, I had to book it, or I had to hide when they were driving through. I dove in someone's bush, or the fun things like that. But no, most of the time, I haven't done a full summer of sales. I've never gone out and been on that side. But sometimes I see the sales guys come out and they're just having such a blast and going out and doing fun things on the weekends that I know they're having fun, more fun than I might be seeing in the office side of things.
Yeah, the sales guys are really calling you and they're like, well, where's the tech?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Hey, well, why aren't my routes open right now? I have all these houses that I'm trying to get on the route.
Yeah, you're like, do you have a sale? They're like, no, but like, it's coming.
Yeah, exactly. I can feel it coming.
That's good. I love it. Well, and just walk me through too, as far as like with sales and stuff like that, and like servicing. Obviously, they go together. Is there one thing that you're like, hey, like, I think you do have like a great level of salesmanship when presenting to like sales guys or customers. Like you have an ability to deal with people. What's something that you've noticed just in like interacting with customers or people that work for you or work with you that you're like, hey, these are some good principles to just always be interacting with a customer or a person?
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, I just think about my technicians, the guys who are out there making it happen every day. The ones that have the most success and they get the most 5-star reviews, everyone's, I see people's names coming in all the time, is because they're the ones who have built communication skills, where they're not just going and knocking on the door and saying like, hey, I'm here to do your service, and then leave. They're the ones who are like, hey, like, I'm here, this is what I'm going to do, and get to know the customer. Say, like, while they're spraying the inside, sometimes it's awkward if you're in someone's house and it's just dead quiet and you're just doing your thing. But pointing out things like, oh, hey, look, I see you're building the new patio out back, or like, hey, I see that you're into fishing. That's so cool. Like, I just went fishing this weekend, or making customers feel like you're not just there to do a job, but you're there as doing a service and to benefit them as a person rather than just take their money.
No, one, being likable is just so big. I think a lot of times when people get out of balance, I think it's the hardest to do stuff like that. For example, like a lot of times people get money breath in business, and you'll be like, you can tell that all they really care about is like
closing the sale.
Are my needs being met?
Yeah.
And when you're coming at life from that space as a leader or as like or as a subordinate, anything like that, people feel really negatively affected.
Oh yeah.
And it makes people way less likely to want to work with you or help you or be on your team. But the people that are good at that, because we've all interacted with both kinds. The person that like really struggles with interacting with people and kind of is focused on what their goal is and what their objective is. But then the people that are really good at helping other people catch like what they care about, and then also too just making them feel warm and fuzzy kind of along the way. Those people are so refreshing to be around and with.
Yeah, they are.
And so I think a lot of times if you do have a vision, because those people too that are the latter, like what we were talking about right there, they're so good at still accomplishing their goals. But they're also really good at being like, hey, like making everyone want to come with them and be a part of that. So if you're listening to that, like, and you're going out this year as a team leader, or if you're going out this year as a branch manager, I think having that in the back of your mind, like, hey, here's my objectives that I got to get done. How can I make sure that everybody else is positively affected as I'm going forward into this? And I think your mission will get accomplished faster. Everyone will be happier there. And I think problems decrease in those situations way faster. Whereas if you are more of like, hey, my will, everything I want is going to get like pushed out, you cause a lot more like negative effects if you don't.
No, absolutely. I think I think about, in my experience, my little realm of the people that I get to help. When I start to realize, like, oh, I'm starting to lose traction with these guys, or they're starting to lose some respect for me, and I lose that leadership feel. It's because I've stopped complimenting them and thinking about them and touching base with them, like we talked about earlier. And that's when I realized, like, oh shoot, they're frustrated with something, and I haven't been able to get through to them. That's when I say, oh, you know what? It's because I've been pushing them. This is like, you need to do better at this. You need to change this and this. Like, why aren't we doing this? When I take the time to, like, oh shoot, like, you guys are doing a really great job. Like, I love what you're doing with this. What's going on? And if I take it from that approach, they say, oh, he actually cares about me, not just making sure we're closing numbers and closing rings and getting those kinds of things done. So yeah, it's definitely, if you don't want to just manage numbers, you want to manage the people.
Yeah. One thing that as you were talking, that it reminded me of, my dad said my dad's high school basketball team. He's like, I really loved my coach because he would always come to us before and after games, and he would say, "Is there anything you guys need from me?" And he's like, you could really feel it in the room that he's like, "Hey, like," and he would kind of ask follow-up questions on that, on like, "Hey, how can I better help you guys? Where do you need me to be?" And people can feel when you're asking that question sincerely, and not with no expectation of like, "Hey, like, you're gonna get something later."
Yeah,
as you ask it enough and frequent enough, people really will open up to you. And I think it's natural for human beings to be pretty guarded. Yeah. We all don't want to be like, "Oh, I don't want to off-put somebody else," or like, this is asking for too much. But I think people that are really well connected, by like constantly checking in, constantly taking care of their people, people are so much more readily to tell you their problems when there is a problem, if you've done your like back work, to make sure that that's a reality. Cool. Well, dude, Dave, I have been honored to have you on the pod. Seriously, that there's a lot of good content here. I think for leaders, both anyone that's in management, if you're managing a sales team or if you're managing some of the people like a branch or any the office staffs. So I hope a lot of people listen to this, take away from like your leadership. But dude, I love you, brother. Thanks for being on.
I appreciate the invite. Thanks so much. Love you too.
All right, BRD Nation, we're out.
Let's go get them.